Yo, 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 yo! What is going on, Lego Masters fans and Lego fans alike here on YouTube? As you guys know, we do these live recap shows for Lego Masters. We've been doing them every week. We just did episode 9, and today we will be talking about episode 10, Flip My Block. Now, this one, the whole theme was like, basically it was like, it's supposed to be a play on, redecorating houses, reconstruction houses, it was interesting. I think Will Arnett kind of gave it his all. He put on this character that's like extreme, epic, like home makeover, which was fun for sure. But alas, it was definitely another challenging competition between these people. And now, we're down to 4 teams. So I've been saying, like I said in our episode 9 recap, we are at a stage now where these are all some of the best builders in the world. And it's really difficult for these judges to kind of pinpoint and nitpick the goods and the bads when at the end of the day, each of these teams is firing on all cylinders and doing really well. So we'll see how it goes. I have here with me Christian from AllOutBrick and Thrawns Revenge from his show. If you haven't seen it on YouTube, Thrawns Terminal, he does a bunch of his mocks and talks about. He also has an Instagram you should check out as well. But yeah, Christian, maybe if you can put on headphones because I think I'm getting a little bit of reverb, if that's possible, for you to figure
yeah,
out.
sure thing. Yep, sure thing.
But in the meantime, I'm just gonna go ahead and talk about this episode. So, this episode is essentially taking a pre-built house, which is just like a very boring house, and then reinterpreting that, rebuilding it. You could take it fully apart, you could add on to it, and making your own creation. This was an interesting challenge because, it seems like we're so far into the competition that there would be one that's a little more out of the box, I guess. But at the same time, seeing each of these teams essentially build a fortress or something new essentially out of what they were given is a cool concept nonetheless. So being able to see these teams try something that, especially for, as you guys will see, Michelle and Natalie, who literally do home improvement as like their career, this was kind of in their wheelhouse, and it proved rightfully so. So let's just go ahead and get started on the first build this week, which is Michelle and Natalie's Circus house. Now, another part of this competition was you were supposed to incorporate movement, gear function with a motor. This is something that Zach and Wayne excel at, but as we've seen in the past, certain teams have a little trouble, Michelle and Natalie especially, and when they put this up to the test, for the first minute or so, it wasn't really working out. The little pipes in the back that were spinning around were getting stuck, and the top of the house wasn't spinning, wasn't twirling as it originally was intended. But after about a minute of finagling some things, finessing some of the problems here and there, Michelle and Natalie were able to get it to work. And once it started moving, I thought it was great. I mean, it's a really, they had the box, the mystery box at the end. Theirs were pink clown wigs, and they were like, let's turn it into cotton candy. Like, that's a very creative way to go about it. And to me, when I look at this, it is very aesthetically pleasing. Is it really ginormous or crazy or super, like, out of the box? Maybe not necessarily, but that theme of a circus and everyone's being given cotton candy, and I think again they just like really honed in on like some good colors and great architectural design for these two like circus tents slash like almost hut kind of buildings. Even from the back, I remember when they did a 360, even from the back this design was great. So definitely for Michelle and Natalie, I'm glad they weren't in the ultimate bottom for this. And also they managed to, I think, definitely do a little bit better than what they had previously done last week. Obviously we weren't big fans of the like rat eel like thing that they made. So the environment was a little more fleshed out, and I think in general just taking that design they originally had and doing what they did here with the colors they had and incorporating the little cotton candy clown wigs was great. So yeah, overall I thought this was a step up from the last build, and I enjoyed it. So Yeah, over to you. Christian, your thoughts on Michelle and Natalie's Circus House?
So the big it looks cool. I like that when they got the clown wigs. Obviously, there's a ton of them that they got given, but one of the easier routes would have been, hey, circus, clown wig, duh. But choosing to do cotton candy, I thought it was the creative way, and I think a lot of the teams, I think all of them, got their pieces and really thought about how can we get really creative with these instead of it seemed like some of them were gift wrap for what they were going to do, but Michelle and Natalie obviously struggled a little bit when it comes to the servo functions, and they do in really a lot of the challenges that involve that. It's just not what they're doing, and if building Lego mechanical functions can be incredibly tough if you have no idea. Like, I would not have be able to done anything close to that. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know mechanical stuff well. I just don't know the motorization well. So it is a big jump, big gap, learning gap, but I have some big thoughts on this episode that I'll dive into a little bit later on, but I think they were probably the weakest build for me out of this one.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Thrawn, how about you? Your thoughts on the Circus House?
I agree. It was a lot of, for the movement aspect of it, it was a lot of just rotation. There was nothing more than just something spinning, and it wasn't even like a geared down rotation or rotation at an angle. It was mostly just a direct drive into the motor, which compared to
Right.
everyone else, not as interesting to look at. But the build itself is really good, very creative, very imaginative. As soon as I saw the wigs, the first thing I thought of was cotton candy, actually. I was like, I would 100% use that for tons of cotton candy.
Really?
It looks just like cotton candy, but bubbly.
I'm
like
sorry, man.
raspberries.
I saw clown wigs. I see clown hair when I see it.
I saw either like coral or cotton candy. Those are the first two
No.
things to come to my mind.
Richard would have saw coral.
But yeah, I thought the rest of the build was really good.
Yeah.
A little bit on the plain side in certain aspects for sure, but it still shows that they have good modeling capabilities and they know what they're doing. The creative design, I think, I personally wouldn't have gone for a circus, but I think they might have been tied to the color of their house.
Right.
And I think it was a white house, right? And that's why they ended up going with this decision.
It was a majority of those teal colors all the way at the bottom of the main circus tent.
Yeah. Okay, so I think Circus is, I feel, too safe. I think they could have gone for something even more wacky and even more out there, because I think that's where they excel at, is they excel in going in the direction that most people wouldn't think of.
Right.
So yeah, I wasn't super impressed with this one, but that's the way the cookie crumbles.
Yeah, no worries. All right. Next up, we had Caleb and Jacob's Ski Resort. Now, this was tough for them. Probably the toughest challenge yet. I don't know if Caleb's tuning in now, if Cheesy Studios is checking this out. But I felt for them here. I mean, this was the first time where even Will Arnett was like, look, no one in the history of LEGO Masters has said that they have the worst build. So let me help you guys with morale. And when they got the secret box, they got the snakes, which, by the way, I'm sorry. Like every other element that they were given, especially the cups that were like Mark and Steven, that made a lot of sense. That was really smart. That worked. But for them to get snakes, I mean, I know those pieces. They don't really have a lot of ways you can connect them other than like a clamp, that can hold them. So I don't know. It was so strange to me that that's a decision that whoever the people behind deciding those 4 mystery boxes went with. But, I'm as a viewer, I'm like, all right, let's see what they can do, because the idea of the ski resort was really awesome. They stayed with a lot of the original color scheme, and I think the houses themselves, the little resorts, look great. I even love the little car, the little almost like snowmobile car that's in the little garage there, and the ski lift itself, I know, like, had some function to it, and I think the judges were like, we would have liked to see it a little more incorporated into the build and more active, but they had the 2 giant skis spinning as well. So I mean, aesthetically, it's like, what can I say? Again, all these teams are firing on all cylinders. Their strengths are right here in broad daylight. You can see it. But to make the snakes lava was, I think, probably the best thing they could have gone for. I remember, I think Amy was like, wow, you guys really went for it here. Because it worked when they did the little stop motion animation. It kind of, I could see how, like, it looks a little like lava, these snakes spewing out. If you, like, squint your eyes a little bit, it's just, I've seen these snake pieces for so long, even, like, with the original, like, studio sets that were from, like, the 90s, and then, like, the Indiana Jones sets that came out when Crystal Skull was coming out, that they were doing, Lego was doing. I remember having so many of these snakes and being like, what the heck do I do with these? Other than literally use them as snakes. It's like if they had given you owls. It's like, how do we make a bunch of owls look like something that's not owls? So really, they were put into a corner, but I think Will was able to really help give them this uplifting speech about, like, this is where you really can make it count. This is where you can make it work. And in the end, I was impressed what they were able to pull off. Thrawn, let's take it to you. What did you think of Caleb and Jacob's ski resort?
So when I look at this build, I think of that meme of Wario looking really sad, going, "I've won, but at what cost?" You know what I mean? Like, getting snakes is awful. That is the worst one you could have gotten, and I feel for you, especially because, like, when I saw that ski lift starting to be built, I remember that I think I've seen a couple of other ski lift builds. Those are really, really hard to do. Especially when the whole thing isn't angled, because the way I've seen them be done is you have to put it on a separate attachment, not attach it at all to your structure, and just set it in there. And I don't know if, like, Lego Masters regulations, if, like, does your stuff have to be completely attached for it to be safe at such a large scale? You know what I mean? The use of the snakes I thought worked out really well. The lava, I think, is a very good decision to use for the tiling of the houses. I think that's also good alternate for that.
Right.
If it was me, I would have honestly used the snakes as blood and made it just a really, really horrifying ski lodge.
There's probably rules about that, though.
I'm sure that Lego television show would have loved it.
I think I'd be the kind of contestant that they'd probably yell at me for. Like, I don't think we can do that on TV. But yeah, I think what they were given, they used what they had, and they used it very well. So good on them for being able to pull out what, for a lot of people, I think would have been an immediate loss to, like, a safe spot to be in. So that's thinking on your feet,
No, totally. Christian, what do you think?
So here's what I think. I think when they saw what they were building in this challenge, they concept different pieces that the different teams would have liked, but still been able to incorporate at a large scale. For Michelle and Natalie, clown wig, circus. We'll see in another one, there were snowboards. They were building a ski resort.
Yeah,
the snakes,
right?
I think, belong to the haunted house.
Yeah, it's too
And
bad.
then the cups for Zach and Wayne for the big float, and, they're probably having a big party up there.
Yeah.
So for me, it seemed like those 4 different pieces were handpicked for different builds, but obviously with probability, they're not going to end up going to the right team and all that. So this is just the worst wrench to be thrown if you're Caleb and Jacob building a ski mountain.
Yeah,
I mean,
they should have gotten the snowboards. Oh,
if they had the snowboards, there you go. One of my favorite moments from this episode was when they were talking, I believe, to Will. It might have been to the Brickmasters, but I believe it was to Will. And Jacob said they were going to make a moving ski lift. And as soon as they walked away, Caleb looked at Jacob and he was like, we actually have to do this.
Yeah,
It might have been the other way around.
No, it was they were talking to Will, and he was like, "What can you do?" And they're like, "Maybe a ski lift." And they were like, "Oh shoot, now we have to do that." Yeah.
That was hysterical. When I saw the snakes, first thing I thought of was, can we get an Indiana Jones cameo somewhere on the mountain and the snakes going around him? I think Fox owns it. They might have been okay with it.
No, yeah.
But then the shingles idea really worked well. I think they did the best they could. I think the mechanical parts, the motorized parts in this build, they were lacking a little bit. The houses moved up and down. Like, maybe if they could have gotten the volcano to shake back and forth like it was actually erupting, would have been something. But as we'll come to see, this was just another challenge like we saw with the combination animals last week, where it was like, it's really not under your full control, and isn't 100%
Yeah.
fair, I would say.
No, yeah, they really are putting these builders into a corner. Dominant Silvinsky says, "My sibling and I, when we saw the snake pieces Caleb and Jacob got, we said, snakes. Why did it have to be snakes?" Yeah, right. Totally.
There you go, Indiana Jones.
All right. So next up we have Zach and Wayne's Flying Pig, the Flying Pig home. I can't wait to get talking about this because to me it plays to a lot of Zach and Wayne's strong suits. I mean, they were given this house and completely demolished it and made it like this floating house with the snowboards that they were given like attached to the wings of this pig, and just the gear function, the motor function alone, it's their strong suit. Like, no questions asked. Throughout all of these challenges, they've done a really good job with it. And seeing the wings move just like impressed me. I think maybe the like lower part, or I guess the like weakest link in this, is just the foundation. I mean, it looks like it's just green and they put a couple bushes down and a fence, and but like, you know, when they were given a house on a street with a fence around it, they focus on the house itself. How can we make this as crazy as possible? And they, in my opinion, almost bit off a little more than they could chew as far as just like the look. I think it was Brickmaster Jamie who said, "This is great from afar, but when I get closer, the face of the pig looks almost very pixelated. It looks like you know, a Roblox or a Minecraft. Yeah, a Minecraft pig," which is unfortunate, but that's kind of what happened. Other than that, though, I think they really went for it here, and when it comes to the function itself, it spins, the wings move. I mean, it was very smooth, the gear function, but other than that, they had a lot of problems with it. Thrawn, let's go to you first. Your thoughts on Zach and Wayne's Flying Pig?
I 100% agree with the judges on this one. They did use their strongest aspects of their building styles, which is 100% the mechanics, the mechanisms, it's spinning, the flapping wings, all of the technic construction. Saved the part that they're not good at, which is the actual modeling aspect, which, as they said, it feels like a low poly pig. which is just, you know, I think they which I think is the correct move for them, is they have to focus on what they do well so they can wow the judges, and movement and unique construction with the technic pieces I think is what they do best, and that's exactly what they did. And their parts usage was really beneficial for them because as they used it, they just used it as feathers. Yeah. I probably would have done the same thing if I was in their position. Either that or like maybe some weird texturing on the pig. But that would have probably looked weird. So I think they did what they could with what they have. I think it's going to be interesting to see as the competitions keep going, the limitations of their modeling, because it seems that this show is a mostly modeling show and less of a technical ability show.
Yeah, totally. Christian, how about you?
Yeah, I think the function that they built into this was, I mean, it was exquisite. The motion of the wings going, that was awesome. That being said, that's not going to win them the whole challenge. The pig sculpting's just not, and we've seen this a couple times. We saw it with their big whale. We saw it a little bit with when they made, I think it was it Zach? Or I think it was Wayne who built the crocodile, right?
Yeah.
Whichever one built, I think they are more of the size and the look from afar than a detail perspective, and I think that's just starting to creep up on them a little bit.
Right.
You know, they're so focused on one element of the build, it feels like time and time again, that something else comes up and hinders them from being a first place team.
Yeah.
In this case, the pig's just not the best it could be, and the base is not there at all. And as great as that wing function is, like one of the best motorized functions we've seen in the show.
Yeah, it was.
It's just not enough there. And I think they come up with some creative stories every time too. Like it was they came up with some pig pun for whoever's like party boat this was, and I thought that was, I think they do a good job with that. But yeah, it's another very technical, great achieving build for them, but got to see them kick it up a notch when it comes to the overall aesthetics.
100%. I Can agree. So let's move on to our next, which was Mark and Steven's Rock and Roll Haunted House. Now they won, and they had their golden brick, and they used it, which is interesting, right? Because you're assuming, right? They used it here. You're assuming that, like, I mean, when I heard the Brickmasters talking about this, they had a couple problems with color, and I was like, oh man, like, it's definitely smart for them to use it. But they won. They could have not used this and just been those big guys on the court, like big dick energy, just like, yeah, we're gonna hold on to it until literally the finale of what they thought was the finale, you know. So, but let's talk about the build itself. I do think when it comes to the challenge, it has elements of the house they were given the most out of all of these builds we've seen. Like, it looks as if they literally took that house they were originally given and just kind of expanded it, added some more flavor, and didn't go too crazy, because the story they're telling here is pretty cool. You know, and the use of cups was really cool. They've been using cups for a while. Apparently, it's one of their strengths. So I mean, in the end, and I like that there's function happening through the window. There's little ghosts twirling. I mean, it looked like, you know, a haunted house would, like that you would see on Halloween, a really impressive haunted house that someone would put together. So at the end of the day, I understand, but also don't totally understand exactly why they won. But then again, I can see how they were able to pull it off. And I think when it comes to the judges and what they're looking for, this is what they were looking for. Can we see elements of the original house, but in ways you've expanded it creatively and it's still pleasing to the eye, and the functions are there as well. So all in all, yeah, it's a great build. I mean, Mark and Steven have time and time again just been making it work. I will say they're definitely kind of the most cocky of the group. Like, they definitely try and, like, you know, and especially when it comes to Caleb and Jacob as well, these two teams of brothers are just like constantly, you know, trying to like one up each other in a fun, friendly competition sort of way. So yeah, overall, really good build. It makes sense to me at the end of the day when I look at all these builds why they won. I was at the moment like, oh my god, they didn't need to use the brick, but it's probably a good thing they did. Christian, AllOutBrick, what did you think of Marcus Stevens' Rock and Roll Haunted House?
I didn't see this as being the first place. I think when we just went through all four as we did, I can kind of see it going there. Like, there wasn't one that was head and shoulders above the rest. I think Mark and Steven had some good different elements throughout their build, and they used the cups pretty well. Obviously, I think they were supposed to get the snakes, so there's that. Caleb has just mentioned in the chat that according to the rules, this was the last episode they could use the brick. The build winning shocked me too, but Mark pulled me aside and showed me all the functions. Okay, so there was a lot of stuff. I assumed they were putting a bunch of stuff inside of the haunted house, almost like it was almost like a ride or something like that.
Right.
And what gets me is, like, why didn't they get that golden brick back? I was so disappointed when they were like, no one's going home. And I agree with that. If there was a challenge where no one gets sent home, I agree that if there was going to be a challenge for it, this would have been it, because that curveball that got thrown halfway through, like, what are you supposed to do when you get thrown something like that? Like, with such obscure pieces for, like, Caleb and Jacob, or, you know, even you could say the snowboards could have been really tricky for Zach and Wayne if they had a different concept going on, you know. I think this is one, but I feel like it was strange, because I was sitting there wondering the whole time, like, do they have to use that golden brick in this challenge, or does something happen if they keep it all the way through?
Yeah.
I wish they got it back. We'll find out in the next episode that we'll talk about if it even mattered that they didn't have it.
On the topic of the golden brick, I will say, I feel like there should be a limit for how many times you can hold on to it, because not seeing other teams have the golden brick kind of takes away that, like, ooh, are they going to use it? Or are they not? I feel like after 2 to 3 episodes, it should be like, if you haven't used it yet, give it back. But they held on to it for like 4 or 5 episodes almost.
I disagree. I disagree there, because, you know, you can't just like force someone to give up their immunity. I think it'd be cool.
Yeah.
And obviously we don't have enough runtime to do it. But where if there was like an immunity challenge in the first half of the show, or like with the Derby, we had the first build, and then we got some sort of advantage going in. Like, maybe
Right.
they could start to adopt something like that in more episodes, and not just have, like, they have the golden brick, because every single episode, when they ask about the golden brick, they always cut away to Zach and Wayne just, like, stubbornly standing there, like, yeah, we gave it up, and then came in second when it was a back in play, like. But anyways, back to this build. I think it's pretty cool. Caleb reiterated that there's a bunch of functions inside the house. It seemed
Right,
like
yeah,
they
that's
were
what he
really
says.
going as far as they could with trying to make this as cool as it could. I don't know how much they showed that roof opening up. I thought that was a really cool function to, like, incorporate a hinge with it. I would have liked to see a little bit more detail on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, good build. Was it their best first place build? Absolutely not, but got the job done.
All right. Thrawn, your thoughts on this episode and this build? And
Really like this build. I thought this build was the great understanding of what they were asking for, of like taking the original build and making it into some sort of wacky version of itself. I thought that was really cool. The colors are really interesting and unique, but I do agree
Yeah.
that it feels like there should be more colors, especially if you're going for a haunted house design. There should be more.
mm-hmm.
In terms of mechanics, that's where I think I completely understood why they used the golden brick. When you compare the mechanics that they used versus the mechanics that Zach and Wayne used, it's not a comparison at all. And so they were probably very concerned that just because of what Zach and Wayne's build could do, that theirs would be put in the last two as elimination. I don't know if this is true, and Caleb can say whether this is or not. I don't know if they knew that it would be the bottom three instead of the bottom two. So they probably thought that because it would be the bottom two, that someone else would get the second spot and they would get the third spot, and that would mean that they would lose the golden brick. But then again, as was stated, they were told that they had to use it. I do wonder if the golden brick is just a brick that is painted, or if the brick is actually made of gold. Because if
I
it
hope
is,
it's solid gold. I hope it's gold.
Okay, so if
I
it's
don't
solid
think
gold,
it's
I think
solid
it would be
gold.
really cool if they have it be where if you do keep it the whole time, you just take the brick home. Because that would make an extra layer of like cockiness for the golden brick of like, if you're able to hold on to it that whole time, you get a neat little trophy instead of the big trophy if you don't make it all the way. So I think that could be like extra incentive, you know what I mean? But yeah, the mechanics I think were really cool. The usage of the cups was, as they said, they were using cups a lot as like, what are the different ways we could use the cup?
Oh no!
Painted brick.
No.
It's a painted
Oh.
brick. Cheesy Studios, Caleb says.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I was thinking it was one of those kind of bricks, because I know Lego was giving out golden bricks for a while,
Yeah,
and if
I
I
have
remember,
one.
those were just shiny painted and not actually
I
made
have
of
one on
gold.
my keychain.
They should look into doing like a gold plate or something, or like gold lined, like a really thin gold. That would make it kind of cool.
Would they
is, like,
make
to keep the
a,
golden brick?
What did they make a solid gold minifigure of? Was it C-3PO?
C-3PO, yeah.
So there were ones that were plated, and there were ones
Okay.
that were solid. The plated ones sold for like, I think,
It was like
$500,
the 30th
and the solid gold one's
anniversary.
super expensive.
It was like
Yeah,
the
it was the
Star
30th
Wars 30th
anniversary.
anniversary, which is kind of nuts to think that was like 2006. Oh, jeez.
Yeah,
But I remember
that thing was cool. Yeah,
That must have. I wonder if it came out alongside the UCS Falcon in 2007. A little off topic, but
might have. I don't remember the timing of
Yeah.
it, but I remember they put them in random sets that C-3PO was in. But,
But,
yeah, it's super
yeah.
off topic. But yeah,
No
I
worries,
think,
yeah.
and all in all, the competition itself, I hated. What 12-year-old is going to be like, you know what, Mom? I love watching HGTV at home. Really resonate with this challenge. Said
Hey,
no
man.
12-year-old. Like, this is going to be super out of left field for all the kids, and all the moms are going to be like screaming, being like, this is what I wanted. I feel this is targeted at a very specific demographic, and I was not into it. The builds
Maybe.
themselves, it was I personally would have done a completely different challenge for this. But it is what it is. I'm not in charge of the show.
Yeah. But all right, so another great episode, guys. This is like, a surprise that they're like, you're going to move on to the next one. No one's getting kicked off, but they do that sometimes in this show, and I don't mind it because the more episodes we get, the better. So, and this competition in general, I don't think anyone did incredible things as far as like what we've seen in the past. So it's good to know that we had 2 more episodes left. So if we have 7 concurrent viewers right now, if you are tuning in, we are going to end this show right now and then start a new one in just 5 minutes or so, just like we did. So it's 6:04 right now. I'd say by 6:10, we're going to get our final review. These have been going for about half an hour, which is nice. So thanks for tuning in on this LEGO Masters Season 2 Episode 11 recap, or 10 recap. We are going to be doing Episode 11 in just a couple of minutes here. So stay on my YouTube channel, look in your subscriptions box, and come back here in just a couple minutes. We'll be talking about Episode 11, the second to last episode of LEGO Masters. But until then, we'll see you guys soon. And remember, get your brick on! Stay brickin'.
Stay